second here. We're working on it. We're working on it.
We live?
We're live on YouTube.
Hey now.
Just let me get Facebook set up. I'm going to have to get one of those fancy switchers soon. Alright.
2K, it can be yours.
Yeah, 2K.
That's not horrendous.
Here we go. All right. Yeah, you can play that. That's good. A ton of delay
on there, yeah.
Oh, well, howdy guys, happy Wednesday. I'm with my very good friend and band leader of our band What's Next here in Baltimore, Mr. Maynard Edwards. Thank you for coming, my
Absolutely,
friend.
glad to be here.
Yeah,
awesome. Be on Guitar Gate.
Yeah, well, you know, it's a good time over here. So, you've seen these, you know what we kind of do.
I do.
So, we're going to talk gigging and gear, and I figure a good thing to kind of start with would be, your gear setup. People are kind of familiar with mine,
Right.
but I want to talk about the importance of having two different guitar sounds if you have two guitars in the band.
And that's something I think we do pretty well. First of all, this is not my normal guitar. We'll talk about this piece.
I'm excited.
My setup is as bonehead simple as possible because, as Michael mentioned, I'm the band leader, so I've got to be able to do a lot of different things while the show is going on. So I have to be able to direct the band. I'm singing most of the time. I'd say about 70-80% of the time I'm doing the singing. If not solo, at least doing backups for the majority of the songs.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally grabbing some lead lines. I'm also keeping an eye on the crowd and running sound. So my setup has got to be about bonehead simple. So I've got clean, dirty, loud, soft, a phaser, a delay, and a wah pedal, and a good wireless, and that's kind of it. So,
yeah.
I recently switched. About every 3 years, I have this schizophrenic thing where I switch from using a multi-effects unit.
They throw everything out and start over again.
Exactly. I was using a Line 6 M13 for a long time through a Fender amp, and I loved it, but it had this harshness to it that I was not a huge fan of for the longest time, and so got rid of that a couple of months back and switched over back to stomp boxes and a Vox amp, and I like what I've got now a lot.
Now, so let's talk about the Vox amp. So this is, it looks like a 30, but it's a 15, right?
This is an AC-15 in a 30 box, so it has
Right.
larger speakers, pushes a little more air than the 15, but not as much as the 30. Because for
Right.
most of the time, gigs that we're doing weddings, we're doing corporate events, we're doing private functions, or even clubs, a 30 is just so loud.
I know.
And people don't realize that 30 watts is as loud as it is, but it's really loud.
Especially if it's a Class A tube amp. 30 watts is too much a lot of times.
Then the 15, the regular AC-15 is just a single 112, so it's one 12-inch speaker in there, and it doesn't move as much air. So this one has two 12-inch speakers, has a little more ass to it than the 15.
Right.
It's a real happy medium between the two, because the AC-15 sounds great, but in a larger setting where if you've got 200 people at a venue, it doesn't have the...
It just doesn't have the nuts, yeah.
Yeah, it just doesn't.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and my setup is, other than that, is just bonehead.
Yeah, so you got just the regular Boss chromatic tuner, the full tone OCD. What wah is that?
That is the it's a Crybaby, and I forget what the exact model number is, but I love this wah because it's adjustable. It's a Crybaby 535. Is what
Gotcha.
It is. And so it's got a couple cool things on it. One, it's got this switch that lets you dial in how much wah you're going to get when you rock back and forth.
Yep.
And then it's got this little boost thing on the side, which gives you a little more gain.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds a little. It gives you that real throaty wah when you want it. Now, if this was on a pedal board like mine is, you have a tough time hitting that switch with your foot. But if it's sitting out by itself, you can hit that with the side of your foot.
Gotcha.
And I'll give you a little more. I can. Well, this wah.
You got the power cable.
Oh, do I? There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, and then you have the MXR micro chorus, and then you have my favorite pedal, that EP
Absolutely,
booster.
hands down, best pedal ever made.
This, guys, if we haven't talked about this before, this pedal right here. I'll zoom in. See, this EP booster. This is a hell of a pedal. I mean, it really, really is. I don't have mine plugged in right now because I'm trying out some new stuff. Why don't you play something without the booster and then with it?
Well, I'm gonna show my wah first because. So here's the wah. I'll give you the full forward from back. So you. So then it gets, you can dial it into these different settings. Take that throaty.
That's more like my Vox, yeah.
Yeah. But then when you kick that was with the boost on. Here's with the boost on. But I like to leave it up here and give it that. It's that real 70s,
Yeah, it's like deep, stuck in the mud.
I like that.
It's got some bark to it.
I love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this booster pedal, I don't have it dialed in for this. technically it's a clean boost, so it's not supposed to add a lot of dirt, but if you dial it in right, it will. That's that classic, just slightly overdriven, just breaking.
I mean, turn it off again real quick and hit it. So that's clean, and then hit this boost.
It just gives it some meat, you know. Gives it
Dude, it is a great
And when you
pedal.
dig in a little bit, you can back off and it's cool, but. Oh, and then in Buck Junction. Yeah, I love that pedal.
Dude, it's awesome.
It's the best pedal.
Yeah, so
And the OCD full tone overdrive is it's great. It gives you just enough dirt, but it's not so over the top ratty that you get those harsh overtones and stuff that you might get with a lot of other pedals that are out there. And I like them that they're all true bypass, which means I'm not losing any of my mids or anything.
right.
Which
Well-
will get on your nerves. So.
Well, let's talk about the Brian May.
Yeah, this is
I posted that thing on Instagram and it got like damn near 1,000 likes.
It is a very interesting guitar. I always recommend to people, you know, have a good relationship with the local music store. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of good folks that are working at some of the major guitar retailers, whose name I won't plug. But then, you know, going to your local music store and getting to know those guys is really helpful, because when weird things come in that you like, they will call you. And so I have basically my own set of drug dealers at the music go-round, Jim and Chris up the street. And what they will do is if something weird comes in that I'm a pop culture nerd, so I collect Elvis Presley stuff. I've got an Elvis Presley tattoo. I've got an Eddie Van Halen guitar that I never played.
Right.
It's almost the same as your Wolfgang. Where is it? There.
Behind with the broken string.
Yeah, yours has the raised top. Mine's a flat top.
Right.
I've got a Paul Stanley Ibanez Iceman, and I would never otherwise ever own an Ibanez, but I wouldn't. I really would not. My son comes home with an Ibanez, he's out of the house. But don't send nasty letters to Michael. That's just me that believes that.
No, dude, you say whatever you want, man.
But so I like to collect these guitars that have pop culture nerd value to them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the guitar I play when we play out acoustic, the guitar I play 8 out of 10 gigs is an Elvis Presley Epiphone guitar, and it sounds great.
It sounds huge.
So when this came in, they called me and they were like, "You need to come take a look at this thing." It's very interesting because it is an exact replica of the guitar that Brian May and his dad made. Brian couldn't afford a guitar, but his dad was some kind of engineer.
And his dad made the guitar?
He and his dad made the guitar out of stuff they found around their house. The neck was made out of a fireplace mantle.
Get out!
The body was made of some other thing. The pickups they wound themselves. All the internal mechanism. The spring that's in here in the trem was a motorcycle kickstand spring. They built it themselves. And they tried to make it better than what was commercially available so that Brian would never feel like he was... playing something second.
How long did he play that homemade guitar?
He still plays it.
The same one?
Every gig. Every gig. He's never refretted it. When I bought this...
He's never refretted it?
Never. And here's the thing, and this is true according to his guitar tech, and you can find stuff with his guitar tech online all over the place. I'm talking about Brian's setup. Brian has the one guitar, calls it the Red Special. It's also been called the Fireplace because it's made of a fireplace mantle and stuff. It's got a couple different nicknames, but he has one guitar, and then he has a couple of replicas. But basically, if he breaks a string on his main guitar, he gives it to them long enough to change the string back.
And give it right back to him?
He wants it back in his hands.
He doesn't swap it out, huh?
He doesn't like to. He's got a couple of different versions of this. Like, he's got one that's orange that he uses for fat bottom girls because it's drop tuned.
Right.
So that's quicker.
On stage,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But the interesting thing that I think that this guitar has is, first of all, each of these switches is obviously an on-off switch for the 3 pickups and a master volume and a master tone. But then there are these phase switches that, honestly, I haven't had it long enough to really experiment with it because I don't play it out much. Where am I kick myself off here?
I don't know.
There we go. So each of these is the on-off switch. But then each now, sometimes these make a big difference.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes they don't make much difference at all. So I haven't figured out all the different combinations, but there's something like over 1 million different combinations of sound you can get with this one instrument. So, but I like it because it was, because it's a Brian May guitar and it looks kind of cool and has an interesting story. It's chambered too.
I can't believe that he still to this day plays a homemade guitar made out of fireplace stuff.
Oh yeah, look it up. He and his dad built it. One of the most interesting from a technical standpoint of this guitar is it has a 0 fret.
Oh man.
Which most guitars, I don't know that I've seen another one.
See if you can walk up to show the camera.
So here's the first fret here, obviously where a normal first fret would be, but then below the nut and above the first fret is what they call the 0 fret. And that supposedly, and the strings, I don't know if you can see that, but the strings are resting behind, between the nut and that first fret. They rest on that first fret, and allegedly, this makes for much longer string life and much better intonation.
And he's never even refretted it?
No, he claims he's never refretted it, but he plays with an extraordinarily light touch.
He must.
And he plays with an English sixpence. So he plays with a piece of metal.
He plays with money.
With money, yeah. So I guess when he goes on stage, he's got a pocket full of change. I don't know.
So he plays a guitar that he and his dad built out of fireplace stuff, and for a pick, he uses money.
Mm-hmm, and has a PhD in astrophysics.
And he has a PhD in astrophysics?
Yes. Here's a funny Brian May story.
See, you need to come over all the time and just tell stories.
See, here's a Brian May story. This is absolutely true. About 3 years ago, there was a show, Broadway show around called We Will Rock You, or something. It was the story of Queen, who used their music, just like the one that Billy Joel has and a bunch of other guys have out. And it was in Baltimore, where we are. And I get a phone call from a friend of mine who works at the Hard Rock Cafe and says, hey, we need a PA system. There's this guy from a band here, and he's a guitar player, and he wants to use it. And it was like 10 o'clock at night, and the show had just let out. And I'm thinking it's the guitar player from the show, and I'm not gonna get up out of bed on like a Tuesday and drag half a PA system down to the Hard Rock Cafe in Baltimore for free as a favor to. So I said no. About a week later, we were at the Hard Rock Cafe playing a gig, and there's a picture of Brian May at the Hard Rock with a couple of these folks, and I said, "That's cool. When was Brian May here?" He said, "Oh, that's the guy I was telling you about that wanted to borrow a PA system."
And you're
I was
like,
"What? You didn't tell me it was Brian May. I would have gotten up for that." So, yeah, thanks. Thank you, Holly. Very appreciate that.
That was a Holly maneuver?
Yeah, that was a Holly maneuver.
Some guy here.
Yeah, she's some guy. He's some guitar player. He wants to know if he can borrow some stuff just to do a couple things here. I was like, no. But then you left out the critical detail that it was Brian effing May from Queen. Yeah, oh yeah, it was great. So this is my. I really haven't figured this thing out yet, but it's a beautiful instrument. It's lightweight. Feel it. I mean, but it's.
Oh yeah, it is.
The action on it is bizarre though. It's not high, but it's not low.
And it's got 3 dots instead of 2 on the 12th and I guess whatever the high one is.
Yeah, I guess just for extra dottage.
Just because.
Yeah, just because. And the pickups, the pickups on the real Brian May are hand wound. And evidently this one is one of the higher end reproductions. I forget who used to make them, but now they're just made under the Brian H. May label. And they're a little hard to come by, but
I've never seen another one.
It's a pretty neat instrument. It's not.
Well, let's play. Let's play another one.
All right, what do you want to play?
I mean, you want to do something for Brian May-ish? You got anything off the top of your head?
Well, that's the thing is, I'm not such a Queen fan that I know every Brian May song. But I mean, I was doing a little Bright Rock earlier, and
all right, I'll follow you.
And we were doing, I guess, for lack of a better term, Tie Your Mother Down. So. Tie Your Mother Down, and Crazy Little Thing Called Love.
I knew you were going to stop and tell a story.
I have to. That's my forte. Crazy Little Thing Called Love and Tie Your Mother Down, they wanted there to be that twanginess to it.
Mm-hmm.
And Brian's guitar evidently doesn't, all these sounds, twang isn't one of them. So they made him play, and he hated it, a telly.
God forbid.
I know, but hey, this is a man's guitar. I'm not sure Englishmen can handle it. It's terrible to say.
No, so this is the main telly you see play all the time.
Yeah, and this is the guitar. If I don't have it in my hands,
you have a mini panic attack.
Well, usually people come up and say, "Where's your guitar?" And I usually keep it down a half because we play down a half. And I guess if you wanted to talk about, you know.
Yeah, actually, that is something I wanted to talk about. Is one. Singing and playing, something I don't do much of, but I know a lot of people struggle with. I mean, I struggle with it. That you do for basically every song, even the ones where our female singer, Kristen, is taking the lead, you're doing harmonies and you're playing guitar. So I'm sure you got some cheats about that you'd like to talk about.
Well, the truth of the matter is that when you sit down to worry about how you can, in a band setting, and that's what we're talking about, you know, Michael's talked a lot about having two different guitar sounds, and he does an extraordinary job of whatever it is I'm playing, finding something that works besides that. So he doesn't just double what I'm playing. So if I'm playing the big G cowboy chord,
yeah, I will.
He does something else, which gives it a lot more tonal color. So
yeah.
If we're doing just some, you know, even on an AC/DC song where we know that, you know, he's doing. Michael does a really good job of playing it up here. That's how good at it he is, and I'm not. But he does a great job of doing that, and it just makes it sound bigger and thicker and fuller, so that you get a lot more, I guess, color, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, I mean, you never, from an instrumentalist standpoint, you never ever want to step on the vocalist, or, you know, play the same thing as another instrumentalist, because if they're good, you don't need to double the part. Right. You know what I mean? You can play the same progression and the same rhythm, but play a different inversion, do something a little different, because, you know, unless you're playing just Metallica and you want, like, the twin gun, like, matching, you know, electric guitars where you just want bigger,
right?
You don't get any more color. You don't get a fuller sound, you know, as far as your tonal spectrum. So yeah, if you're playing any type of bar chord or power chord or whatever, I almost always switch to playing an upper triad.
And not for, you know, part of it is you know, I guess poor technique on my part, but the other part of it is straight.
No, you need those.
See, what you need to do is you need to recognize that when someone sits down to write a song, very rarely do they write and then they're going to sing and play it. Very rarely will they write something that is uber challenging for themselves to play and sing at the same time.
Right.
So, you know, you hear Dave Matthews doing all kinds of, you know, he's doing, you know, doing all that, and then singing over top of it, and I look at him and I'm like, well, fuck that guy. You know?
Not happening.
No, exactly. But to him, that is a very simple thing to do. That comes very naturally. Whatever it is he's playing comes naturally to him, and maybe that doesn't. You know, maybe that doesn't come naturally to him. So when someone writes a song, they don't really care whether or not somebody else can play it.
Right.
They only care that that it does what they want to do, and that they can make the vocal that they're trying to sing along with they want to make sure it all can work. So what has to happen occasionally is that there are guitar parts that I have to fudge a little bit.
You got to find cheats so you can, because the vocal takes the priority.
Exactly.
Especially in a band with there's two guitar players.
Exactly. So if it's something, that very intricate guitar part happening, I will leave that to him, and then I will just fill in, you know, whereas he might be playing something really intricate in G. That's tricky to do that weird rhythm and sing and play at the same time, but I can do, you know, this, which fills out the sound, makes it work for him so he can play what he needs to, but also gives me the ability to concentrate more on the vocal, which more often than not is what the audience is connecting with. I mean, if you're a guy who's paid money to go see, you know, the G3 show with Satch and those guys, okay, you're dialed into the guitar parts.
Right.
But most normal people, they go and they sing, you know, don't stop believing. And as long as the guitar player's not doing anything too stupid.
Yeah, covering it up. Yeah.
Right. So that's what I try and do is I try and find a simple way. So my big thing is try and find if there's a way to play it using cowboy chords, and that, I mean, you know, the big open string chords.
Right.
That's what I mean when I say the cowboy chords. That's the first thing, because those are simple and they are a lot of notes. They take up a lot of space. That leaves less work for him to do if he needs to do something else. And the other thing is, when I'm just straight strumming, that I can do without thinking about it. That leaves me rhythmically free to be able to sing whatever words I want. Because sometimes if you've got a lot of words in a song, you know, something has a lot of fast lyrics going by,
yeah,
that can be tricky to, and one that jumps to mind, and I really love to play, I could never sing this high, or play and sing at the same time, but, you know, you think about Paradise City.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't even know the riff, but you play that, just an urchin living under the street, I'm a hot date, that's tough to beat. You know, you got that going on while you're doing. Those two
that
things.
That would be really hard.
It's like, how the hell are you going to do that? So I would, you know,
well,
what I would do.
You don't, actually.
So I would have to do it like, just an urchin living under the street, I'm a hot date, that's tough to beat. So I'm cheating by, instead of doing, which is what the riff is, I'm cheating by, instead of moving my hands, I'm just letting my
That's
right hand.
a good example.
So, because I still have some sound there, I'm still giving the feel of something happening, but I'm not moving this hand and having to think right hand, left hand vocal.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And like I was kind of saying before, you know, if you're in a band and you're following a band leader and that person is playing an instrument, you know, it's not just vocal, you know, you kind of have to craft your approach around that person. And our band's really good at that, as opposed to learning a song note for note and playing it exactly how the guitar player on the record did. Because, you know, you might be playing songs that are from 3-piece bands, from 11-piece bands, and your band is always going to be the same amount of pieces.
Right.
So you kind of always have to put the vocals first, and you have to, whoever's laying down the main harmony, which is typically you, the bigger chords, the other instrumentalist, you know, has to find something that, you know, adapts to that, because the vocals are what comes first. They are the priority.
Yeah, that's what the audience connects with, because nobody's walking into their favorite bar with a guitar in their hand to play along, you know, and you can only play.
Well, there's always some drunk guy, especially down in Key West.
Right, exactly. And you can
standing
only play
in front of the stage, give me more wah-wah.
I forgot about that guy.
I've forgotten about so much.
There's always, you know, but everybody sings along with their favorite song, and you know, so the vocal does take a little priority. Now, having said that, there are things that there are markers you need to hit. Like if somebody played Sweet Child all screwed up.
Yeah, that's a note for note one.
Right.
You know, there are some classic ones where like you got to get the lead right. You gotta pretty much do it perfectly.
Yeah, and then there's some where, you know, you got to hit the important parts. You got to hit the hooks. You got to hit the things that people expect to hear. Like and here's one that it's simple, but it is I think it's important in Honky Tonk Woman.
Gotta have it.
You know, you gotta have it.
Makes the song.
It really does, and but those little color chords where you're hammering on to an F, and where you're hammering on to a G, or I'm sorry, an A from that D, because what you're really doing is you're imitating what Keith does, and he's doing it in open tuning.
Yeah, he does a different tuning. He's always got that suspended move he does.
Right. So and that's
right.
So where you're actually hammering on to this is, you know, this is
coming from deep.
Right. But so as a singer, I could, you know, probably cheat and go and just go. So you could get away with it, but then you're cheating the audience a little bit. So you got to really try and figure out what's that happy medium between playing it right, which is to tune it to open G, which is a pain in the ass most of the time.
Yeah, I was explaining that, like, what makes the song what it
right.
is.
And to me,
hooks aren't always vocal hooks.
Exactly. Honky Tonk Woman, you gotta have.
Gotta have that.
If you don't have that, you're not doing it. Even though the chords are G, C, and D, and if you sat in your living room and just strummed that for your girlfriend, you probably still go get lucky later. But you get luckier still if you go. That people are waiting for that, and so even though you can cheat by instead of tuning to open G, instead of going, and you can cheat a little bit, you got to do your best to get close to it. If that makes sense.
It does, and that song is actually another good example of, if you notice, I was playing triads up the neck.
Right.
And not stepping on the rhythm, kind of letting them ring a little bit.
Right.
You know, because you're getting those signature rhythm parts, because that is a core piece of the song. Yeah, so you never want to double those or have two guitar players doing the same thing. You kind of want to add something, but not take the focus off of whatever makes the song what it is.
And I would say that as a guitar player, if you're just a guitar player in a band and you're never singing at all, be patient with people who are playing an instrument and singing at the same time, because there is a little bit of some mental gymnastics going on as to what thing you're going to do when, and it might take a little while for them to get it. So there's songs that, like, I used to have a lot of trouble singing and playing. I can't think of one off the top of my head right this minute, but now I can do it without thinking about it because we did it at rehearsal. So, I know one. We played Blurred Lines by,
right.
which sounds like it's a stupid thing because there's only two chords and they're not even really chords, but there's a lot of words happening there. So, okay, he was closed, tried to domestication, and again, first of all, here you go, we're doing two different things. I'm doing this. See, he's doing something slightly different than I am, but that took, even though it's only two chords, the rhythm is happening. Okay, now he was close. So now I've kind of got it, so I can do it and it sounds smooth. But if it's the first time we've done this at practice, it's not going to go that smooth. It's going to take me a couple of tries to get it, and now we got it and it works fine. But again, it's a good example of two different guitar sounds, two different guitar parts, working together and then finding a way to make that, like, if you listen to that song, there's no one doing this.
Right.
I'm taking what I hear and kind of creating a conglomeration that works for us in the context of our band, but nobody is listening to that song and going, oh, listen to those cool guitar parts. It's just not happening. No. Whereas they are doing that for Guns N' Roses or for Journey or what have you.
Yeah, and that's really the thing. You know, what makes the song what it is, what are the key parts, and then craft your band around those specific goals. You know, I really think too many bands and too many guitar players in general always play the guitar part that was on the record and they saw someone teach them on YouTube, and they don't deviate at all to accomplish something specific for their band. You know, it's so easy to get caught, like, I learned it this way, and I'm never changing it. You know, I'm always doing that. Where, coming from someone like my standpoint who is not leading the band, you know, and I feel like our band especially is very good at this, to adapting themselves around what you and Kristen do, as opposed to trying to, you know, really sound like the record. Of course, we don't do tracks, you know, and all those other things, but I feel like that's important for a band to do, you know, like for each song, pick the main hooks, you know, the goal of the song that make it what it is, and adapt how many pieces you have to achieve that, as opposed to always trying to play it exactly how it was played, exactly how it was learned. I feel like when you run a band that way, shows go a lot better.
They do, and it gives you a lot more depth in terms of. Plus, it does push you as a musician to figure out, how do I take this
God, yeah.
and turn it into. How do I take what I have? How do I take?
How do we
5
make Taylor
pieces?
Swift not suck?
Right. How do we make Taylor Swift not suck? How do we? Or here's something. This is a problem we run into constantly. We don't have a keyboard player by and large. Our bass player started playing some keys and some synth on things here and there, but
Yeah, Sean, you need to bring that back out.
right? I knew he would get too lazy about bringing it out. I told him that would happen. Don't bring it unless you can bring it to every show. I know you're watching. Put down the bong, pick up your keys.
We're going to get a text message for that.
Any second. You know, we play Journey. We don't have a piano player. We don't have a keyboard player.
Right.
We play 2 different Journey songs. Now, here's how I started cheating the piano part of Journey, the intro to Don't Stop Believing. So I'm stretching, so I can't get, but you get the idea. Now, so that works, and creates the feel of the piano song, so that when Michael comes in with his part, and we can go ahead and do it. Why not?
Yeah, let's see how loud this is.
Note, wow, wow.
I'm doing it wrong?
No, you're doing it right. You know who doesn't do it right?
Who?
Neil Sean. Listen to that record. It's punched in. Those last 2 notes, listen real close with headphones on.
It's punched in? Well, you
punched
know what
in.
else is obviously done in the studio is in the lead, where it does that first bend and then there's 2 more.
Yeah.
I don't really see anybody else kind of trying to grab those. If you listen to him on the studio, like it's whir, then there's another part, and then there's another layer.
Yeah,
He's not
cheater.
doing 3 bends. Well, it sounds great. I mean,
It
it's the
sounds great,
studio.
but he's such a prick to people out in public.
Is that true?
Oh, he's just evidently, he's just not nice to people.
Say it ain't so.
I know. Like when the whole rest of the band does meet and greets, he doesn't come.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So you pay money to see a meet and greet. I don't think you get to see Neil. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Send Michael a nasty email, not me. There's another Journey song that we do that we have to grab a keyboard part because the keyboard part is absolutely essential. Yeah. And that's.
I'm still learning how to do it. It's too much.
But this is obviously this here.
That's the keyboard part.
But we had to find a way to make it work, and it works. It works every time. People recognize it instantly.
Yeah, that's one of those things. Again, you got to get that part right. It's not just the vocal hook. Like that is, if you don't give people that, they're gonna feel cheated.
So
they're waiting for whether they know it or not.
So when you're putting your songs together, when you're working together as a band, you have to recognize that it's a team effort, and everybody has to bring a little something to the table. The drummer's going to keep everybody in time. The lead guitar player has to make sure he's filling enough space, but not stepping on the other things that are happening. The singers have to absolutely be ready, willing, and able to, 1, keep the crowd connected, but 2, also make sure that they've got their stuff down. The bass player everybody has to lock in together. But I think this is an important thing, and I think we also do this well, and this is to your credit and the credit of everybody. Like, when we are in a practice space, we're in a space where we're rehearsing or we're working on something, everybody has sort of an equal say, or we will defer to the person to whom it is the area of expertise. So if it's like a real guitar, if we were walking in off the street to work on a Van Halen song, Michael's going to take the lead on telling us how that should go and how that should be and tell everybody what to do. And we're going to work on it in practice. Or the drummer's
Which we should, by the way. We should do Hot for Teacher.
We absolutely should. Or Panama.
Yeah.
But the drummer is going to say, hey, there's this one little rhythm hit we've got to get. So everybody's got to put their 2 cents in rehearsal and not be afraid to hurt each other's feelings or step on each other's toes for something that you think is important to the song. Because if you think it's important to the song, there's a pretty good chance that somebody out there listening thinks it's important to the song too. So you want to get that right and do your homework in those rehearsal spaces. And then when you're on stage, there has to be one person in charge.
Agreed.
There has to be a leader. I mean,
yeah.
Okay, the Ravens are a football team, but on the field, on the offense,
Bad example.
All right, well, whatever. I don't like football. I don't know another example.
Yeah, well, no, it's a good example. Just the Ravens are kind of shitty this year.
So if the guy whose job it is to call the shot says, do this, don't do that, on stage, just go with it and fight about it afterwards, because you really, there might be, when I call off a song or when I say let's not do a particular song, there's generally speaking a reason, because I as a band leader have to be in tune with what's going on with everybody else. Maybe our lead singer has blown her voice out a little bit, and I know that song pushes her, so we can't do that one.
Sure.
I know that Michael's having an issue with the guitar that has humbuckers on it, so I'm going to stay away from Metallica. This happened last week, the drummer's double bass pedal broke.
It's always something.
So, you have to be in tune with what's going on, and make sure that whatever it is you're about to do. So, just because, and this will frequently drive,
especially if you don't use set lists,
right?
And you're not playing to tracks, you don't have your lights coordinated
right.
with each. It's not choreographed.
But see, here's
you can
that.
audible. You can just do that.
Well, yeah, you can call an audible, but even when you're locked in with a strict set list and tracks and all those things, one thing going wrong really can screw everything up. So you
right.
really have to follow the leader and trust that he's going to be able to make the decision. So you've got to have somebody in the front of the band. It doesn't even have to be the front of the band. Like in Iron Maiden, the bass player is the leader of the band. He's the guy who's telling everybody what to do. But you'd think it's Bruce Dickinson just because he has the microphone.
And he's Bruce Dickinson.
And he's Bruce Dickinson, right. But it's not him. Their bass player is the leader of the band. Likewise, there was just a big benefit concert for suicide prevention in the name of Chester Bennington, and it was Linkin Park and a bunch of folks who came to sing in his place. And the band said, we want to soldier on in some way. We're just not sure how yet, which is certainly understandable. But it's because Chester wasn't the straight up leader of the band. He was just the guy that the audience connects with. But the leader of the band is their guitar player, and there's a lot of instances of that. And so it doesn't necessarily mean just because you're the lead guitar player, you're not the band leader. That may very well be the case.
Does Gene run Kiss?
No. Interestingly enough, you know who does? Paul Stanley. Interview in Classic Rock Magazine last year for their 40th anniversary, and somebody asked Tommy Thayer, who is playing the Ace Frehley character these days, somebody asked Tommy Thayer, well, Gene says this, that, the other thing, and it said, Tommy laughs out loud, in parentheses, and it said, well, maybe Gene thinks that, but nothing happens in Kiss unless Paul Stanley says it happens in Kiss. So Paul Stanley's the band leader, and I was in the front row of a Kiss concert about 3 years ago with our drummer, Matt, and Paul Stanley's calling the shots.
Yeah.
Maybe from, the 50th row you can't see it, but when you're 10 feet away from him, Paul Stanley's in charge, and he will direct the band, and you go stand over there, you stand over there, and in much the same way that, if I'm ready for a song to move, we're doing a vamp and we're playing some over and over again, I will do some kind of cue that might be obvious to you guys, but isn't necessarily obvious to the audience. That
sure,
they're
not paying.
I'll just go.
They're drinking beer.
I'll just do this, or give you one of these, and we go forward. And the drummer throws the beat mix in there, and off we go. But you have to find out who's in charge and let them be in charge on stage. And if they did something stupid, I would hope that at the end of the night they'll come up to you and go. I have frequently said to these guys, I didn't pitch a great game tonight, I'm sorry. And that's kind of how I look at it. That is absolutely how I look at it. It just didn't pitch well. The arm wasn't there. Threw a couple lefties at me. Don't know what else to tell you.
But that's all good.
But never once did they stop me. Usually, the most I'll ever get from Paul Masano, and this is for all you Guitar Geek fans, the most I ever get from him was, all right. when he thinks I'm like going to do a song where the buses don't run, all right. And then later on, one or the other will usually come. You were right about that. I shouldn't have done that. Or he'll go. That was a good call. Wasn't sure, but it was a good call. And it's usually some goofy song that we don't play all that often.
Or ever.
Yeah. Or like half the band doesn't actually know. That's when you can tell that when I'm running out of pitches, when I'm running out of things to throw at the audience, I go, what stupid song could we do that might shake this place up?
Yeah, I always get nervous when you start asking the audience what they want to hear, and I know there's no shot that we know what they're going to say. But you go for it anyway. You say, let me fire it up on the iPad.
But here's the trick. Well,
if you even have the iPad.
If it's a song that I think we could feasibly put, like, and here, we did it the other night for your father-in-law.
Which one? Oh, Simple Man? That's true.
Now, our bass player is a straight from Southern California hippie.
Doesn't know it.
There's a better than fair chance he's never even heard Simple Man. But me, I happen to know it only has 3 chords in it, and he can probably handle that. So off we go, and we did it.
I think you're right. I think at the end of that, he was like, "I've never heard that before."
And then he's like, "That's a great song." I'm like, yeah.
You're like, "Where have you been living?"
California. They're legally not allowed to listen to Leonard Skinner.
Oh, is that a law out there now?
I'm pretty sure.
That's a proposition, actually. They don't have laws.
Right. I dropped my pick, but anyway.
It's under your left foot. Anyway.
There's what I spend the majority of my time doing, looking for picks that I've dropped. So those are my tips in terms of like being a part of a band and being a band leader and as an instrumentalist, where to fit in, and you do a really good job of that. And some of the things that Michael shows you guys on Guitar Gate that you think, well, where the hell am I ever going to do that? This is the situation in which you do that.
And you guys know this that are watching. I tried everything that I teach to have it be practical.
Yeah.
Like, I don't teach stuff that I don't use in real life gigging scenarios. You know what I mean? That's why I don't spend much time like, how do we play melodic minor over dominant 7th chord? You know why? Because you're not going to need to do it in the gigs that we do. You know what I mean? If I was doing a lot of jazz stuff, which is not my forte, it'd be different. But if you're playing out at weddings and bars and clubs and casinos, going outside usually does not resonate as well as just playing, alternating between the actual melody of the song and guitarish things.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. And it's not that there's no audience for a Dream Theater cover band. It's just that it's a limited audience. And, if you want to go someplace on a Friday night and make a couple of bucks, you're going to have a better shot with playing Journey than you are with playing Dream Theater. And that's not a slight to Dream Theater, who are amazing, musicians.
Right.
That is we're doing this to appease to the masses to make money. We're not doing this to show you our musicianship. Coming into the Guitar Gate studio and sitting down with Michael and doing the megalithic dominant 7ths, that is the place where you can demonstrate your musicianship and have some fun with it, and really push yourself in terms of your dexterity and your technique and stuff like that. But when you're on stage in front of people who you want to give you money and bring you back next week to give you more money, more money has been made with that than is ever going to be made with that shit. I'm sorry, it's just a fact.
It's true, and also, as guitar players, we're so guilty of it. I try to stay extremely conscious of it. That whenever you're playing in the type of scenarios we're playing in, if the hook of the song is that strong, I almost always try to start or end my lead lines with that.
It's a great idea.
Because the girl drinking the bar in the back, she will remember that, because even if she's not consciously thinking it, she's humming it. You know what I mean? Like, a great example, even though this song does not have a lead part, but I just did a learn the song lesson about it the other day, is that Tom Petty song, that Free Fallin'. It's F, B flat, C. In my opinion, it would be a mistake you know, to play, you know, a bunch of real noodly, you know, stuff like that. Where I think if you go to play that, it would, you know, I would stick right to the melody, you know.
Well, right. But here's another example of where Tom Petty did not. I'm sorry, he did not sit down and would go.
Right.
He didn't do that. When he sat down, he had a capo on and went.
He plays that first. He plays that first fret.
Yeah.
It's an F, and so he does E shape, your A sus shape, and then like what's looking like a C power chord with the top strings ringing out, so
Right.
it's a C sus 4.
But he's playing that somewhere in there. There's a D shape with that.
Yeah, yeah. What's the guitar player in the Heartbreakers' name?
Oh hell, I don't remember.
But yeah, he's doing that.
Yeah. So as a singer, you can torture yourself trying to grab these bar chords.
We should add that song, by the way.
Be a great one. Which, granted, alright, it's not all that hard, but you know, if you throw that capo on there, up, you know, taking it onto the second fret, now you've got that F chord.
Right.
Whatever it is, I don't have a capo on here to be able to grab it, but
Doesn't matter.
you know, B flat, so you're gonna play a C shape. But that when you do that, it makes it much easier as a singer to grab those open chords. So,
Right.
you know, when you put a song together, be thinking about that kind of thing. How can I make that just slightly easier on myself? Because you saw, and the guys who are watching this, you saw me screw up the chord. The same Michael looked at me, because that's the same look I get when I screw up any chord. I'm used to seeing it. It comes at me fast too. He whips it out like he's a gunslinger in the Old West.
It's just eyeballs, eye contact.
So, you know, when I do it that way, I have to stay right on top of the beat, which can make it feel a little stale. So if I play it up, she's a good C, I guess C.
Yeah.
Whatever the hell it is, you guys got the point. Trying to make a point, not sing a song. It lets me be a little freer since that part is easier to play. So that's my I guess cheat as a
no, awesome. That's
hacky rhythm guitar player / lead singer and band.
Yeah, but you know what? It's super helpful because you know, like I said, some people are leaders, some people are not leaders, and everybody's got to find a spot in the band. You know.
Well, I mean, I think and Bruce Springsteen refers to it as he calls it some kind of democracy, but it's not an actual democracy. Basically, it's a democracy, except he gets to overrule everybody.
Right.
So, like
y'all can say what you want, but at the end of the day,
you can say whatever you want.
Everybody gets a vote, but I get 6.
But I'm probably gonna not listen to you and do what I think anyway.
Yeah,
so,
that's not a democracy.
Yeah, it's not at all. But you know, everybody knows who's in charge of the E Street Band, and
it's not Max Weinberg.
It's not, but you know,
I bet he's got a lot of pull.
You know, but here's an interesting example of Little Steven changing things around. Is that, you know, Steven and Bruce go back to the '60s, and you know, Born to Run. Play the riff. So that third note, you slide into it. Into it. On the record, Bruce just hits it. So
there you go.
So originally, the original recordings of that, and I think you can still hear it on some of like the you know, you get some of his box sets where they've got B-sides and you know, busted tracks and things on there. You hear him, instead of doing
That's it.
that's what something like, yeah, it was one of these where he bends into it like real twangy, like.
Really?
And it's so foreign to our ear now. But that was a case where little Steven went to him and was like,
"Nah, bro.
Nah, you gotta just hit that note dead on. It's too good a hook to not. Don't
fudge the hook.
It makes you feel tentative, don't you know? And Bruce changed it because of that. So in any good band, a good band leader is going to be open to those ideas. But, you know, somebody's got to make a call, and let's be glad at the end of the day, Bruce went, instead of going, whatever the hell it was he could have done instead.
Yeah, don't do that one.
No.
Gotcha.
And I guess those are my sort of areas of expertise in terms of doing this. I would certainly never, you know, if I ever have a guitar question, I think the best thing to do as any band leader is make sure you surround yourself with people who can answer your questions. And that's it's leaders in general. You can't know everything, you won't know everything, and the minute you think you do, you're no longer a good leader. The good leader knows who to call for what questions. So like if I've got a question about guitar stuff, I'm on the phone with Michael immediately. You know, how do we do this? How can we, you know, how do we accomplish these things? What, you know, what do I need to do? And I rely on him to bring me that information, and so that, you know, we can as a team work together to craft something that's pretty special. And I think we do a pretty good job of that. And my hope would be that you guys listening aren't just playing guitar in your basement forever, or aren't that at some point this is about connecting with another person. And even if it's in a setting where you're in just a room, the two of you playing together, or like this, or if it's in a room where you've got 500 people watching you, the whole point of music, the whole point of an instrument, the whole point of this is to be able to share this and connect with people. And while it's really impressive to and I don't want to discourage anybody from working on technique, God knows I need to do it, but at the same time, never lose sight of the fact that what the end goal of some of these things is to connect with people. In our case, our end goal is to connect with people for sure, but it's also, you know, to earn a living, to turn this into something that we
you do that love. By connecting with people.
Right.
That's a
really
byproduct.
Do.
The success is a byproduct.
It really is. And I mean, I never want to sound like I'm discouraging anyone from learning all those intricate things in music, all those, you know, harmonic 7 scales. God knows I sat up with one of those Steve Vai workbooks at one point in time before I just realized that
burned it in the fire.
I'm not that guy, okay? I am not that guy, which is why I'm playing a Telly and not an Ibanez. I am the guy who's going to just muscle it out and sweat. He's my guy that's going to be up there doing all that stuff, because I got to know who I am as a performer, as a leader, as a player, and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
And I'm also the guy. I bring every single thing to every gig, all the gear. You know what I don't bring? These. He's my guy to bring those too. So I didn't give him credit for those.
That's true.
But,
well, thank you, man. Thanks for coming and talking
absolutely.
and sharing all that.
I hope some of this is helpful to some of the guys watching, because
I'm sure it is, because like I said, not everybody does this for a living. Not everybody is a singer. Not everybody is a second guitar player. And
that's awesome.
So many people are on different paths trying different things. And that's why I was so excited for you to come over, because you bring a perspective that we don't talk about much, you know? And not only that, you have the stories.
I do have some stories.
So
did you know that Elvis played in this room here?
I think it was the church up the street. This
is one of my favorite things to do. You just have to do it with complete credibility. Just before we play an Elvis song, it's either That's All Right Mama or Blue Suede Shoes, because those are the two we play. I will look very seriously at the audience and be like, you may not know this, but before we were here, you know, if we're in a bar or a club, one time we were at a golf course.
Yeah.
So I always say there was a little church that was here. It always is a little church.
Well, you know, in the 50s, it was always, that's all you had. You had little churches.
CYO clubs, you know, the Christian youth groups, they would have little dances, and that's where rock and roll got its first foothold in a live setting. And so Elvis Presley, there was a young, and I would never say his name right at first, I'd say a young man from Memphis, Tennessee, came here with his band, and they played, I'm going to do a little tribute to them. This is Blue Suede Shoes by Elvis. And people will be like, I had no idea Elvis played here. Yeah, look it up. Not now. Later. Go look at it.
Awesome.
Because we were at a golf course once, and I said that, and some dude is like furiously on his phone trying to find
double thumbing.
Like, oh yeah. Oh.
Well, thank you so much for coming over. And just so you guys know, we actually did a course together about running a band. So the band that we're in Baltimore is called What's Next. I guess we should plug our band, right?
Sure. Baltimore'sBestBand.com.
Yeah, just go to Baltimore'sBestBand.com.
5-time champions.
Yeah, we've won Best Band in Baltimore Magazine 5 years in a row, and we gig too much.
Probably.
But we made a course, which is on GuitarGate.com, which you can get as part of your subscription, where we go through everything, much more than we talked about today. I mean, I don't even know how many hours, but it's quite a lot.
It is. Of
everything that you can do step by step. If you want to do some of the things we're talking about, you know, make a living doing this. So check that out. You have a website you want to promote?
I mean, MaynardEdwards.com, but I'm very, it's mostly for the other little things that I do, but you're welcome to go there. And if you find me on Facebook and want to yell at me, do not hold Michael responsible for any of the stupid things I may have said. I'm sure there's some Ibanez lovers out there right now who would...
Hate.
Yeah.
They're going to, that asshole.
You know, it's my own bitterness at not being able to play one of those sissy guitars.
I'm proud that you can admit that. That makes me happy.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't have anything with a lock nut on it, and the one thing I do have is that, and I don't ever play it.
Fair enough.
Look, this is a man's guitar. See, it's a hunk of wood with metal on it. That's it.
It's good for playing guitar, and it's good for fighting.
It is. I had almost hit somebody with this when they pulled a gun on us on stage a couple years back.
That was the first time I ever played with you. That was a soft audition.
What? You left by that.
And I left right before, but the next day, I got this text message. They were like, yo, thank God you weren't there, because you might not have wanted to be in the band, because we almost got shot at the Hard Rock. Which, by the way, Baltimore is great. Don't be afraid of Baltimore.
Hard Rock's great. It's great. It was a random, silly thing that happened, and the police handled it very quickly, and no instruments were harmed in the process.
But anyway, that is a good, blunt object to swing
really
at somebody. An unruly patron.
We got into an argument last week about which guitar would survive more of a hit. Which one was it? Was it your...
I honestly think it'd be that, just because that's, 5 ball. Just pick that up real quick. That thing is
It's heavy, but
that's a.
Yeah, but I mean they're both bolt-on necks. I mean you might have.
It's a great conversation, by the way. Which guitar would fare better in a fight?
All right, I want to do a little.
We should make that video.
Guitar Gate poll. Which guitar would win in a fight? All the guitars in the guitar pantheon. I still think good old-fashioned Telecaster. This is a baseball bat with a.
I love that. We are going to leave it at that. Which guitar do you think would be better in a fight, would fare better in a fight? The Tele or the Bullet? Or if you have another suggestion, feel free to drop it in the comments.
I'll tell you what, it's not Les Paul.
It is not a Les Paul.
It's
not a Strat either.
I had a car accident, bad.
And you're not going to do it with the PRS, that's for damn sure.
No. Bad car accident. This Tele had one scar on it and snapped the neck completely on my Les Paul. They were sitting right next to each other. Both in hard shell cases, so...
This thing wouldn't fare well either. This neck broke off that already.
Oh wow! Yeah, no, that one wouldn't work.
You know, Sean.
We don't even want to talk about the Taylor.
Well, yeah, but we don't even look at it.
Don't look at it. That's enough of that.
Don't even look. Yeah, Sean came over and we were talking about the Bullet, and he picks it up and he's like, "What's the deal with this guitar?" Because look at the pickup jack, my handiwork. It's been refretted 3 times.
I'll tell you what it is Michael Palmisano's guitar. That is the guitar that you play.
Yeah.
And it's just, this guitar, look at this one. It's beat to hell. It's got crap on it. And it was once a 52 Hot Rod reissue. And, I mean, it is literally beat up. But I just keep taking it because when I have it in my hands as a player, I'm comfortable.
I know. And so Sean was like, dude, it's like the frets are worn out. I was like, what the hell? He's like, well, I kind of like... I told him, I kind of like guitars that are borderline unplayable for anybody but me. And he's like, what is wrong with you? And he's like, yeah, I want people to pick up my guitar, plug it in my rig, and really struggle.
Makes you seem more powerful.
Yeah. And he was like, no, man, if I touch anything where the intonation's even, or the action's even a little off, like it totally throws me out of whack. I was like, no, man, if you have something that fights you a little bit, it makes you be a little more choosy, more honest.
How many times in practice have you seen me pick up that or pick up another guitar, and after about half a song, I'm like, the hell with it, give me my Tele, I'll walk up and get it. Because it's in the car, it's not in, wherever we're practicing or whatever.
Because you're supposed to keep quality guitars in cars.
Come on. What could happen in a car that hasn't already happened to this instrument? And it comes back for more, and it's never even out of tune.
All right, we will leave it at that. So, again, put in the comments what guitar you think would win in a fight. And remember, for all your Guitar Gate subscribers of the site, I'll be going live tonight like I do every Wednesday at 10 p.m. And I think the subject tonight, I got a request for Drop D.
Nice.
So, I might do Fat Bottom or something. Yeah. Yeah, so we'll do that. And also... So I got some new gear here from Ryan Fowler. I'm going to start doing gear reviews every Friday.
Nice!
Yeah, so we're going to come in with a bunch of stuff, so keep an eye out for that Friday. And as always, if you guys want a discount on really cool gear, really boutique stuff, go to GuitarGate.com as a subscriber, hit store, and you get 10% off on stuff you're not going to find anywhere. Certainly not in the big box chain, which we will not name.
No.
But free shipping on new and used gear.
Nice.
Used gear too. How cool is Ryan?
Well, it'd be great, except I think it'd be stupid for me to ship it since this place is like,
Right.
out the road. But
for
everybody
the world,
else.
but
Right.
for the world,
Right.
no one gives free shipping on used boutique gear, even pedals.
Well, I need you to keep an eye out for good delay, so that's my request.
You should try this Bell Epoch Deluxe.
I want
this
two
echo
separate
unit.
delays. I want one to give me some slap back and one for some real echo.
Dude, listen to this thing.
There's some slap.
That is some solid. Listen to this country sound.
Now, what about space echo?
It's got everything. I was supposed to return the pedal on Tuesday, and I told him I need another day because I haven't figured out how to do it yet.
Oh, okay.
But anyway.
Because I want one that we get. Hey, little girl, is your dad at home? Can you go and all alone? Got a bad desire. Oh, I forgot I put the drum. I turned down the drum beat.
Yeah, that is a. Let's see if I get a little something.
I was wondering why that didn't sound right. It's because I was still in drop D.
Well, too much.
Yeah.
I got to mess with it. Anyway,
Yeah, you were pretty close before, but not this week. We don't need to do this in front of people.
let's call it a day.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you, my friend.
Thank you,
I appreciate
guys
it.
very much.
I'll see you guys tonight at 10 on GuitarGate.com. And again, go to the store for gear updates, Baltimore'sBestBand.com if you're curious about what the hell we do on the weekends. MaynardEdwards.com if you want to check out some of his stuff.
Sure.
And again, leave in the comments what guitar you think is going to win in a fight.
Telly.
That's a great comment. Thanks, guys.
See you guys.